Welcome, football fans. It's Saturday. Made it through another work week.
Yep.
And it's time for another episode of Jackson Pigskins. I'm your host, Tom Pollen, and along with my co-host, Wanda Weidman.
Hello. Good morning.
Back with us today after a busy holiday weekend last week. So
yeah, very busy. Very busy.
You had fun, had family.
Fun, family, and shopping, and just other things that kind of came up. So it was very busy.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, this is one of the biggest weekends of the football season. Conference championship week in college football.
Yeah.
Spots in the college football playoffs up for grabs. And a big game, I know, for a lot of our Atlanta fans, Georgia at 4 p.m. Eastern time, playing number 2 Texas Longhorns at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Oh, I can't get that out. I don't know. So they will be at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and I'm sure a number of our watchers will be going to that. Should be a great game. Georgia's already got a win against Texas in the books. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
So also we got that's 8 p.m. Eastern, number 3 Penn State versus number 1 Oregon for the Big Ten championship.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's going to be kind of fun to watch, but it might be a tight one. I don't know. It depends on who shows up, really.
Yeah, I think so too. But, I don't know. It's Oregon fighting for the Big Ten title. It just doesn't sound right to me. Oregon playing a Big Ten team in the Rose Bowl, that's my era.
Yeah.
But, this is rough. Number 17 Clemson against number 8 SMU for the ACC championship tonight. So we'll see. Clemson Tigers and the Smooths are going to fight it out, and I think the winner gets a college football playoff berth. But kicking off right now, biggest game of the weekend, biggest college football game today. The Ohio Bobcats face the Miami of Ohio Redhawks for the MAC championship. So, biggest game of the day. 2, huge, mighty Ohio universities fighting it out for the Midwest Athletic Conference Championship. And, Miami of Ohio, school motto, no, we're not that Miami.
No, even though that Miami somehow got left out of the whole conference leading, and Alabama gets in, and it's just I just kept shaking my head. The records don't match, the play doesn't match, and yet here we are. It's the seeding is just so, I just don't get it.
No, neither do I.
No,
but it's Alabama. It's
Well, I could understand if it was Nick Saban was there, but I mean, it's Alabama, but it's earn the spot. I mean, that's how I feel. Earn the spot.
I agree.
And the U should have been in it. I'm just, I think they were a better team as far as I'm concerned. But
so do I.
We'll see.
It's just funny. It's amazing. College football never seems to get it right.
No.
Many times as they go through this, they never seem to get it right. Yeah. And, I don't know. I don't think there's a way to fix it. You just can't fix it. The way college football is structured, you're never going to get this championship, this playoffs right. They've expanded the playoffs, and it's still not right.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, another big football weekend, another big event this football weekend, and one that has really ignited a lot of the Atlanta fans, is Falcons traveling to Minnesota to play the Vikings. Vikings second in the powerful NFC North Conference. And I know the big question this week has been, is it time to see Michael Penix in place of Kirk Cousins as the quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons? Cousins had a horrible game last week.
Yeah.
Threw 4 interceptions, could have thrown another one. Seems to be his decision-making is off. I don't know what has gone sour for Kirk Cousins so far over the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, I don't know what is going on in his head. I mean, he's a pretty studious guy. He's always looking at what he needs to do and improving and so on. But either he is nursing some type of injury that is undisclosed, and he doesn't want to be pulled out, and so he's playing with that, and it's affecting his game, which is my number one thought since watching the last week's game. Or he just never really healed from that Achilles, and it's still causing him issues in his throwing motion and his stance. That can be a factor, but man, he is just not getting it together and not connecting with Mooney like he normally would. Yeah. It's just, I don't know what is happening with him, but that is the big question is it now that he starts this game and he starts to play and they go, we got to throw Penix in if we want to even continue on in keeping our position. So it's 6 interceptions over the span of how many weeks?
3 weeks.
3 weeks. That's crazy.
And 4 of those last week, against the Denver Broncos. Not the Broncos. I'm sorry. But 4 last week is just, against the Chargers. And that was a game that the Falcons actually weren't teed up to win.
Yeah.
Their defense came out and played a great game against a tough team on offense. And it looked like the Falcons really should have
won it.
Should have won that game going away.
Yeah.
There's just no reason why you would have seen them, considering how tough their defense played, 5 sacks, came out of the bye ready to play football. And I think that's the biggest disappointment to the Falcons and Falcons fans.
Yeah.
That it was a game before the bye that this team would have won going away and couldn't pull it off. But he's also gone 3 straight weeks without a touchdown pass.
Yeah.
Which is just unbelievable when you consider that he's got Mooney, he's got
Drake London.
Yeah. And he was connecting nicely with Ray Mcleod. Kyle Pitts, another down season.
Yeah. I mean, that's wasted talent with Kyle Pitts. It's like, with and I would not be shocked. I would not be shocked if Penix goes in and you're going to see Kyle Pitts uptick in catches. It's just, I don't know what it is with Cousins. I know he has a very, and this is very consistent in his play, is once he finds his security blanket, he stays with it.
Yeah.
And that's Mooney. Mooney was his security in Minnesota. It was Justin Jefferson. So he's got his security blankets. But once, and here it's all Cousins, why he's not connecting with Mooney, because I don't think anything changed with Mooney. So,
no.
Yeah.
you can't say that Mooney's not running the right routes or not running, not giving his all in his routes, not, maybe, having his routes. But no, I mean, he's been giving it everything he's got all season. I mean, there has been a question about Pitt's effort over the course of his career in Atlanta, but you can't say that about Mooney, and he's not hitting Mooney either. So,
right. Well, it's funny. How was it? It was in Pittsburgh, and gosh, the tight end there, the
Freiermuth.
No, not Pittsburgh. The wide receiver, the one that's Pickens? I'm sorry, which one?
George Pickens.
Pickens, yes. So, Pickens with his attitude, he was very, when he wasn't getting the ball before. And, but once he started getting the ball from Russell Wilson, you saw a change in the effort of when he was playing, obviously, because he was getting the ball. You see the same thing going on with Kyle Pitts. If there's a change in a quarterback, you're going to see a different attitude because now they're getting the ball. If they're not going to get, these are all playmaker young men who want the ball all the time. And they believe that they are star players, so they should be getting the ball. But when you have several players in there, you have to spread the ball, then they're not going to be the ones that get them all the time. Like you have in certain teams that it's one directed player and that's the one that gets it all the time. But if you see Justin Jefferson, he's not he's not getting the ball just solely. Darnold is throwing the ball around to different players. So it's spreading the ball. Now, even though they cover the one, defenses are double covering, the player, they'll find other players to throw it to. So in this case here, if Pitts isn't, if Pitts is open, Cousins should be throwing the ball to Pitts.
Yeah, I think he would.
Right. If he's not and he's being covered, then, it's not that he doesn't want to. But if you're looking, there were several occasions where Pitts was wide open. And now he's trying to throw it to double coverage, because he's throwing him to his security blankets in London and Mooney, and forgetting that if Pitts is open, just throwing the ball and let him catch it.
And I don't get that. It's rough to me to see, where did the trust fail between Cousins and Kyle Pitts? Because I think Pitts has done a good job of catching the ball when Cousins targeted him in games in the past.
Yeah.
So it's not like Cousins has made a couple of bad, egregious drops where Pitts is like, I just can't throw you the ball anymore. That hasn't been the case. Right. And you wonder about that. You've got to make use of every receiving target you got. Well, think of the Bears game when they played the Vikings. They shut down Justin Jefferson, and Jordan Addison beat the hell out of him.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's another problem, is Cousins kind of focusing on London and focusing on Mooney and not.
Yeah.
And that's
not looking for Pitts to be open. So, yeah.
Right. And that's one of the things that I've been praising Josh Allen in Buffalo for all year. No big receiver, but just targeting guys, other than Khalil Shakir, targeting Curtis Samuel, Matt Collins,
Mark
guys
Cooper.
who.
Yeah.
But, he'll look for them in every game. It's not a matter of it's not a matter of I have only one or two receivers I can trust.
Right.
It's more of these are NFL receivers, and I've got to get them the ball.
Yeah.
And that's an issue, but does Penix fix that for the Falcons? Because, coming in and throwing a few passes in garbage time is one thing. Coming in and being the starter, being in charge of the offense, commanding the huddle, making adjustments at the line, reading blitzes, reading coverages. That takes time. That's not easy to do. It's also not easy to do to get that kind of experience and practice. My question is, you put Penix in the game. All right, suddenly this has become a developmental season, and you're basically saying that we're not looking at the playoffs anymore, at least in my opinion. I don't know how you feel about that.
Well, I think it all depends. I mean, if you're looking at all these rookie quarterbacks right now that are playing, they're playing pretty well. There was doubt about Bo Nix. Bo Nix was one that was, they were looking at him as a developmental type of quarterback. All the leagues, every single team met or talked with Nix, but there wasn't like a huge interest as like the other ones. Here Nix comes in and he is, having fun playing football.
Yeah.
Having fun, hitting his receivers, running and so on, doing what it takes to win games, and they're winning games. Penix, we don't know because we haven't really seen him, but I think there's a possibility that Penix can come in. He can prove the doubters wrong. He can come in there, command the huddle, do what he needs to do, and start targeting the players, spreading the ball. Maybe it's what they need. Maybe Cousins needs to be benched and see, is it time? Is it something that he's got to fix, get out of his head? What is the issue? But I think there's this fear that Penix comes in, he's going to lose his job. I mean, there's just all this stuff, but there's a reason why Atlanta took Penix. There's a reason why. Was there something that they knew, something that they needed insurance on, that they felt they needed to grab Penix? And that's the only thing that I could think of is like, there's something that's not being said, and it's not to say that Cousins playing during the season was bad. I mean, he obviously was doing what he needed to do, winning, especially in the last minutes of the game. Boy, he was like coming through and getting the wins and doing what he was Kirko. He was doing his thing.
Yeah.
But now it's like this downhill thing going on, and they will have no choice. I mean, if he struggles in the first quarter or even the first half, they have no choice but to put in Penix if they want to save the rest of the season. So they have to put in Penix to see what he can do and kind of like throw it in the air and let's see what this young man can do. And because I think he played 5 seasons in college. He was, so he's got that underneath his belt, the same as Bo Nix did. He has the experience in the game, was in the championship game, played pretty well. So, let's see what the young kid can do if he's going to save the Falcons season at all. And if he doesn't do well, then they're going to have to put Cousins back in. Maybe he can fix whatever the issue is. I don't know. But at this point, they have nothing to lose.
Well, this week they got the Vikings. You're looking at, the Vikings have one of the best defenses in the league.
Yep.
Fourth in points allowed. Second in quarterback knockdowns. Fourth in quarterback sacks, and lead the league in interceptions. So, this is I think that might be why the Falcons don't want to start Penix in this game, why they've decided to keep going with Kirk Cousins. However, and it might be a rough first start for a rookie. To see that kind of defense. But if you're going to put him in the second half, I mean, things don't change. He's still facing one of the best defenses in the league.
Yeah.
It's going to be a tough run. And you got to look at the rest of it. And again, I get back to my first question. Are you saying that the playoffs aren't as important to you as developing Penix for, starting next season?
Right.
Or do you think Penix can still lead this Falcons team to the playoffs? I mean, is that how that's, the big question stepping forward for Raheem Morris and the Falcons?
Yeah, I don't know. It's they'll never know until they try, right? I mean, they're either going to have to see what Penix can do, if he can, they can use the plays and where he can throw, short passes to move the ball, see if they could get a rhythm going, and then try some of the long passes because Penix does have an arm, so they can see what happens there. But if they concentrate on just moving the ball, so getting the ball down the field and throwing as many passes as he needs to get points on the board, I think that may be where they go. But it's going to be hard to figure out, and that's a good question. Do they want to continue at this point to make the playoffs? And do they stick with Cousins and see if he can shake it off and then try to go from it, or throw in Penix as they're really concentrating on getting to the playoffs and hoping the rookie can take them there? Or if this is the point where they say, okay, this isn't, we're going to have to try and see what happens with Kirk and take our chances and hopefully maybe win maybe two more and hold on to the position we're at, and hoping that Tampa Bay will just tank the rest of the season and not make it competitive. But at this point, it's who knows what Tampa Bay will do at this point. What if they start a run and they start winning their games? It's going to be interesting. I'm interested to see what happens in this game and what turns out, because I really think this is going to be the game for Raheem Morris to look at and see where they're at. If they do not win this game, he's going to have to make a decision.
Yeah. Well, the Buccaneers play the Raiders tomorrow,
which they should win this game.
They should win that game. The Raiders had their Super Bowl last week and blew it. They had the Chiefs in the bag, let them out. Just amazing how that game finished off. But I don't think the Raiders look the same tomorrow as they did last week. And again, Baker Mayfield has found his connection with Mike Evans again. So, working out very well.
Yeah.
They still have the Chargers coming up. So the Chargers are still one of the toughest teams to score against in the NFL.
Well, right.
But, I don't know if it was – I don't think it was as much as the Chargers as it was the, Falcons' inability to play well. Just, fell apart in all phases. Fell apart on offense. Their defense held Los Angeles, held them in range. So,
yeah, I think a big factor too is injuries. A lot of these teams, they are like riddled with injuries, and they're now. I know even with with the Chargers. They lost J.K. Dobbins, their running back,
Yes.
and so they've got the rookie Corum, and I think there's another running back, I can't remember who. And Lad McConkey has been playing with injuries. Quentin Johnson can't be dependable, in the fact that he drops so many balls. So they're kind of like in a quandary. You're kind of thinking, okay, do they have a chance of possibly, moving the ball and doing the same thing? Can they cover, Evans? He's pretty elusive, player. So, it's Tampa Bay's to try to win the division. There, if they can continue to move it, and the Falcons can't capitalize because Cousins can't pick it up, and Penix is still the rookie, and may have problems starting because he's not getting enough play time. So it's for them to play. Tampa Bay's 6-6 right now. There's a possibility they can play out, just depending on what goes forward. Again, having to beat the Raiders, I think they can beat the Raiders, because I think the Raiders are having issues at the quarterback position, because I think Aiden O'Connell was having some issues, some injury issues. So, this is all across the league. There's just so many problems with the players and the backups.
There it is.
What would happen with the Eagles? It's been Hurts and the Saquon show.
Right.
Well, what happens when something happens with Saquon? That now it's can Hurts make all the plays, and they struggled last year when they didn't have a run game. So it all depends on who really shows up and who's going to play the game.
Yep. So the Buccaneers, the Falcons have the Vikings. Tough game. Going to be a tough win if they can get it.
Yeah.
Raiders, who I think they can beat. Giants, who I think they can beat. Commanders, another tough game against a team that is going to be fighting for their playoff lives.
Yeah.
And fighting for seeding. Yeah. And the Falcons are going to have to face them. Then they got the Panthers. Bryce Young is playing better.
Yeah, he really is. He really is. I'm really happy for him too. It's great.
Bryce Young, amazingly, is looking a lot better as a quarterback. That's not an automatic win anymore.
Right.
And, same thing with Tampa Bay, because they got to play Carolina still. That's not an automatic win. Now, they finish against the Saints. Is that, the final Sunday of the year going to be our final, is that going to be decide the NFC South with, the Falcons playing the Panthers and the Buccaneers playing the Saints? Who that might be, it might all come down to that last week.
Yeah.
So, but, Buccaneers still have to play the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know, hard to say how that game is going to evolve. But, I think the Falcons can still come out of the rest of their schedule with at least 9 wins. But that might not be good enough now. I said last week, I know you were gone with the holiday. I said last week it's going to take 10 to win the NFC South. And I still think it's going to take 10 to win the NFC South. And I don't think the Falcons have 10. Yeah. So it's tough to say. But we'll see how that goes. And I think we're going to find out tomorrow, depending on how Cousins plays in the first half, of what we're going to, how the season is going to finish, whether it's going to be Cousins or Penix playing out the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Cousins has to come up with a big game against his former team. no other choice.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
We have other, struggling quarterbacks that are going on in the NFL, but I don't know if it's a struggle like Cousins has seen the last few weeks. Aaron Rodgers, as far as I'm concerned, good riddance. Goodbye, Aaron Rodgers. We've seen enough of you. And he's trying to maneuver things so it looks like, it's the Jets' fault if he doesn't come back to the Jets. So,
yeah, it's amazing. It's really amazing. Even in a fantasy standpoint, as fantasy standpoint, you can't take Rodgers as a starting quarterback.
No.
If you have any of the wide receivers from the Jets, it's pointless. They're not getting any of the catches or the
right.
The points that's needed. They just lost Breece Hall to injury, so now it's the Braylon Allen show. It's like really just not even. The Jets thought that by having Rodgers, they were going to be this competitive team, and try to win that division and giving hope to their fans. It's just. It didn't bring the hope that they were hoping for, and this is what you're getting. So,
but I think it's hilarious that Rodgers is setting it up to be like, well, if the Jets don't want me next year, I'll go somewhere else. And he's pointing towards the Giants. Like the Giants are going to have anything to do with him.
No.
I don't think anybody's going to have anything to do with him after the season.
Yeah.
He might be retiring just to save face.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, I would not be surprised.
Wants him.
Yeah.
He's not a backup.
No. And I don't think he'd ever step in that role.
No, he wouldn't.
He would retire first before he'd ever be a backup.
Yep. So, as I say, good riddance. Goodbye. See you later. We got one comment that came in on the Falcons that want to put up. Hucklebuck. I don't think we've seen Hucklebuck before, but it's good to see you. Glad to have you with the show. Coaching has been the main problem with the Falcons. They have not been consistently good enough in any of the three phases of the game, period. I will agree with you there, Hucklebuck, to the point where last week that defense came out and played their best game of the season. Delivered pressure on Justin Herbert, held a normally productive Chargers offense and kept the game within reach of their own offense. But the offense has been awful. And as part of that coaching, I don't think Zach Robinson can get away from taking some of the blame for that.
Right.
And let's bring up Younghoe Koo.
Oh, yeah.
Who has been completely off. In my opinion, the Falcons, why they did not play well, should have won that game against the Saints 3 weeks ago, but Koo missed 3 field goals. And he's had that he's at a point where he's got the yips. He's got, when a player gets inside their own head and can't get out, it's trouble. It's hard to do. It's, the golfer who can hit the putt from 16 feet away, but can't hit the 2-foot gimme. The catcher who can't throw the ball back to the pitcher, but can, fire a strike to second base. And these are all things that have happened to athletes. I don't know if anybody recognizes it anymore, but we used to call it Steve Blass disease. Steve Blass, a pitcher in the late 60s, early 70s for the Pittsburgh Pirates, won 19 games for their world champion 1971 team. Was a winner again in 72. Couldn't hit the water from a boat in 1973. could not find the strike zone with a compass. And it's just, it happens. Steve Sack, second baseman, could not throw the ball to first base. Chuck Knobloch, second baseman, could not throw the ball to first base.
And you've seen the same situation with Justin Tucker.
Yeah.
Justin Tucker's
doing the same thing. For some reason, one of the greatest kickers to ever play in the NFL.
Right.
Just can't hit the broadside of a barn if he was 5 yards away.
Yeah.
It's just...
Yeah. It's
amazing happening to watch. And it's tough to watch an athlete go through that.
Yeah. But I think that comment, just kind of brings to mind, you wonder if the play calling is a huge factor, because maybe he's not able to adjust to the play calling. Maybe there's something that is not working out for Kirk Cousins, and the play calling could explain some things there, but at the end of the day,
earlier in the season.
Yeah. So I don't know if defenses are seeing something out of that play calling, and the play, there's not, the adjustments aren't being made, and the defenses have already seen that it's not. They see something else that's going on. Who knows? But it's a possibility. You can't throw that out.
Right. Well, and I've said this many, many times. Defensive coordinators are not stupid.
Yeah.
They will figure you out at some point. And it's not just a matter of figuring Cousins out and figuring out what Cousins does this season or has done in the past, is what Zach Robinson is expecting out of Cousins this season.
Yeah.
And have defensive coordinators figured that out.
Yeah.
And that could be a very big part of this too. Of course, some of that could have gotten in Cousins' head.
Could be.
So Hucklebuck comes up, another comment, and another good comment. I think one of Raheem's biggest mistakes was to bring in two rookie coordinators. And I would not argue that too.
Yeah.
Raheem Morris is getting a second chance after spending time as a defensive coordinator. But now Zach Robinson was highly thought of coming from Los Angeles, working with the Rams and working with Sean McVay. But everybody wants Sean McVay coaches. But so I don't necessarily know. Zack Snyder had spent some time in Sean McVay's system, kind of understood it. But sometimes bringing a rookie coordinator they have some of their own thoughts, and maybe some of those thoughts haven't quite don't work for what you want with your newest team. I have more of a problem with Jimmy Lake, with Raheem Morris bringing Jimmy Lake over and installing him as defensive coordinator. And I know Lake is a 3-4 guy. And Raheem Morris is a 3-4 guy too, which I still think is a problem, because what the Falcons have been trying to do all season, and I don't think has been very successful, is trying to fit 4-3 scheme players in a 3-4 defense.
Yep.
It doesn't just work where you shuffle their positions around a little bit.
Yeah, it's a disaster.
It's a different thought process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I believe that bringing Jimmy Key over instead of a 3-4 guy who could teach the defense, a more experienced defensive coordinator who knew how to teach a 3-4.
Yeah.
Not a rookie coordinator who is just now getting his first shot at teaching a 3-4 and working with guys who have schemed in a 4-3 for most of their entire careers. Have never lined up with their hand in the ground, or have always lined up with their hand in the ground, now are rushing from the outside from a stand-up position. It's a different thought process. And you have to learn some different ways of going about your business. And I think that has been a big problem for the Falcons on defense.
Yeah, and I'm the opposite. I'm the one with Zach Robinson. I had a problem with him because even though he's from the McVay tree as a passing game coordinator, and the quarterback's coach, who was he actually teaching? Well, Matthew Stafford? Yeah. Matthew Stafford, who was a veteran quarterback. It's really not much to do there. Now you have him, leading an offense, and they figure, okay, well, if we have Kirk Cousins, veteran, there should be no problem. Well, yeah, there's a difference in the play. There's a difference in the player. Love Cousins, but he's not Stafford caliber. There's a different difference in the way that Stafford play, the way that he can read defenses, the way that he does things compared to Cousins. So there's a big difference there, and I don't think Zach Robinson was really ready to be able to be the coordinator there. And there's the concern is how would he do with a rookie quarterback in the last. So that might be what sparks maybe it's not a good idea and they just run with Cousins the rest of the season. But, with the decisions that are being made, I don't see that happening. So I don't know at this point what is going to happen the rest of the season.
Well, that's an interesting take, Wanda, because, Robinson didn't just go from the Rams to be an offensive coordinator. He is the senior offensive mind on this team.
Right.
Yeah. He is the man as far as, it coming to offense on this Falcons team, going from being, within the safety of a Sean McVay offense. And now he's running things, and I don't think it's working out as smoothly as he might have thought coming into this position. So, great comments, Hucklebuck, and we really appreciate those.
Yeah, we appreciate those great questions, yeah.
We're talking about struggling quarterbacks. Let's talk about one more, and I noticed you put this name down, Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, so Patrick Mahomes, he hasn't been playing Patrick Mahomes. No. He's he's got a career high 11 interceptions, which is not like him. His connection with his tight end there, Kelsey, hasn't been on point all season. Now, granted, I don't know if it's Kelsey and he's the issue or it's Mahomes is the issue. It's not connecting in the way that it needs to. No, and I've never seen Mahomes throw so many incomplete passes and INTs, and you don't see the trickery that he did in the beginning of his career. So I'm not sure it's, I think it was finally due that Mahomes had hit that semi wall where he starts to struggle a little bit, and defenses are starting to figure him out as the years go on. So, we'll see if he, I think the games have been won solely on defense coming through, helping him out quite a bit. this season. So I don't know. They're going into these playoffs, obviously winning their seed, doing what they need to do as usual. But when it starts getting into the playoffs, my game I want to watch against Kansas City is again the Bills in Kansas City.
Yes.
And to see what happens there. Will they continue to struggle? Is Kelsey going to show up for that one? And see, where they end up. But I've really, I don't know what's going on with Mahomes, but he just doesn't seem to be the same player that he was in the beginning and through the Super Bowls that he's played out this season. Just really struggling for some reason.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's definitely not having that kind of season. Still, he's quarterbacking a Chiefs team that I think has benefited from the fact that they know how to win.
Yeah.
This is a team that wins regularly. And another thing that I like to bring up, winning is a habit.
Yeah.
And that Chiefs team under Andy Reid has learned how to win in a lot of different situations. Because let's face it, the Chiefs should have lost another couple of games this season.
Yeah.
Denver had them, except, the blocked field goal. But again, that's against a team that knows they have what it takes to win a game.
Yeah.
Even if they're facing a potential game-winning field goal, they still have confidence in themselves. Against the Raiders, they still have confidence in themselves. They have confidence that they are going to do something that is going to win them a game.
Yeah.
And collectively as a team, it's just they understand that the other 10 guys on the field with them, it will do something to prevail in a situation. And that's one of the things that it's tough to cultivate, but it's great when you do have it. And it's something that, we've seen now this year, the Falcons need to cultivate. And, we saw with Matt Eberflus getting fired.
Yeah.
What he failed to cultivate as the Bears head coach is that, and the Bears got into that habit where something happened every game that was going to hurt them. Well, you need to flip that around to the point where we are going to make something happen that is going to win us this game. And that's a tough thing to cultivate. And we're going to see whether Raheem Morris can cultivate that over the last 4 games of this season and heading into 2025.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
Time for Wanda's waiver wire.
Yeah.
And we missed last week, but we're heading into that peak fantasy time. And what do you have for us today, Wanda?
Yeah, so it's getting pretty thin in terms of players because you have so many injured players going on. And during the playoffs now you've got tough teams, tough players, and so now we've got to figure out what to do here. So what I have is on quarterback. With quarterbacks, we do have a couple of teams on buys this week. So with the quarterback, I've got Caleb Williams, and being that he's played so well for himself past several games, I think he's a good pick this week against San Francisco because San Francisco against the past, I think that Williams is going to get you some solid points. He's been garnering at least 30 plus points in your leagues. So I would grab him if he's still available. If you have some of your quarterbacks that are not that are on a bye and you're a one quarterback league, then he's one you want to grab. For running back, I mentioned earlier that Breece Hall is out, so Braylon Allen is probably still available in the league, if not already taken, but he's one that you want to grab against Miami. I think he does pretty well on the ground, so you can at least get some points because they're going to have to churn something going on there. Hang on.
They sure are.
I've lost something here. Something's just popped up on my screen. Okay. Then on wide receiver, which that's starting to get pretty thin in the league. Surprisingly, Calvin Ridley has been available in some leagues because, the Titans haven't been doing that well lately. So a lot of people dropped Calvin. But you can actually pick him up because they're playing against Jacksonville. They're last in passing defenses. So this is the one that you want to grab Ridley and play. If he's been on your bench, play him. You're going to get some really good points out of Ridley. And then the tight end position, that's, again, very scarce going in. And I'm going to give you two options here. So there's Otten, if you haven't grabbed him. For the Commanders, I would grab Otten. And against Tampa Bay, Tampa Bay has they have a hard time against tight ends, so I would grab him. Or Calcaterra from Philadelphia, because Goddard, as of this morning, was put on IR. So if you had him, so if you had him, I would grab Calcaterra. He's going to be the next guy up, and he'll probably get some of the touches that you need. And if he's not there, you do have a third option in Cole Kmet against San Francisco, who doesn't do well with tight ends, covering tight ends as well. So that might be another option, because I think that Thomas Brown may be giving more towards Kmet if DJ Moore can't play due to an injury. So those are my waiver wires this week. And remember, you always have to have your backups in case of an injury that's been going on. I had mentioned this earlier in our podcast, especially through the playoffs. Got to make sure that you've got the backup of your main running backs, of your wide receivers, of your tight ends, of your quarterbacks. Make sure you have them in your bench so that you can throw them in there when you need to.
Yep, Zozo agrees with you. She just came up here.
There you go.
Said, yep, shook her head, yes. Tail out of the way, Zozo. Okay, and time for our picks for Week 14.
Yeah.
Margaret, what do you got for winners this week?
Well, it was 2 for 3 last week, so that wasn't too bad. This week I've got Seattle versus Arizona. I think it's a good matchup, but I believe Arizona is going to win by 3.
Yeah, it's going to be a tight game.
I think their defense has been doing pretty well, Arizona's defense, and I think they're going to actually come up pretty big here, but I'm just going to leave it at 3. I also have Atlanta against Minnesota. I think Minnesota is going to win this by 6. I just think they're too good in Atlanta. I think the only thing with Atlanta, they may be able to, the defense may be able to come up, and but they're going to obviously cover Justin Jefferson, and Minnesota has too many targets. They've got not only Jordan Addison, but they also have Naylor. So Sam Darnold's got several players that he can toss to, and I think it's just not – it's going to be too much for Atlanta. Okay. And then I've got Cleveland versus the Steelers. This is going to be a good game, I think, a nice matchup. But I think Pittsburgh is going to win by 3, And I think it's going to be the defense, because Jameis Winston is he loves to pass those interceptions, but then he comes up with touchdowns. So he's like this magical quarterback. You could get either way. But there is, I think Pittsburgh might win this by 3. I think it's going to be a tight game.
The hell of it is Winston threw for over 600 yards last week, if you count the interception yardage.
Yeah, he had 3 interceptions, but yet he had these touchdowns. And it was, if you had him as a quarterback, you're watching throughout the game where it goes down and it goes up and it goes down and it goes up and
drive you crazy.
Yeah, crazy. But he's also one to flex if you have him as a quarterback this year. If you want to have him as a quarterback, it's a good matchup. So you never know.
All right, time for Nostradamus predicts.
Here you go.
And I have been, last 4 weeks, I have gone 3-0.
Yep.
Last 4 weeks, I have been perfect with my best bets. So I am now 28-13 with my best bets over the season, 683 win percentage, and got 3 games for you today. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I am taking -6 at home against the Los Angeles Raiders. Again, I think the Raiders played their Super Bowl last week, and I think they're coming up against just a better team, and it's going to be rough for them in Tampa. Buffalo Bills -3.5 in LA. LA does not defend the run well, and I think James Cook comes up with a big game. Yep.
Yeah.
So take him in your fantasy too. And I am taking the Browns. I'm taking the Steelers to win, taking the Browns to cover the 6.5 point spread. Classic AFC North game.
Yeah. Jameis
Winston is going to win that game and lose that game.
Yeah.
All the space.
All the space in one. No.
But I think they can cover that 6.5 point spread. 6.5 and larger this season have been tough on NFL teams. So I think that I think the Browns keep it close, but I do not think the
so
Browns
too.
win.
I think so too. I think they're going to keep it close. I mean, I think Russell Wilson, depending on his offense, if his offense can give him a clean pocket, Wilson can, he'll throw the ball, but it's hard to say.
He had a hell of a week last week against Cincinnati.
Yeah, and you've got Myles Garrett, who is a quarterback hitting machine, and he is hell bent this season. So he may give Wilson a problem, maybe a problem.
Going to be fun to see.
Yeah.
But and one last thing, we'll go back to Hucklebuck. Great discussion. You both are making my point about coaching. Raheem comes across confident in press conferences, but on the field of play, his team has performed very dysfunctional. And it's hard to argue over the last couple of weeks.
Yep, exactly.
But Raheem Morris does come across as very confident in press conferences. Yep. And probably during his interview, too, with the Falcons brass to get the job.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that continues as the season goes on.
Yeah, we hope Buck, you come back next week and get in on the conversation.
Right. Absolutely. Appreciate your comments. Was great. And all the time we have this week. Again, a lot of fun talking with you about football every Saturday. So look forward to seeing everybody here next week. Everyone, have a great week.
Have a great week. Bye.